We are back from a 2-week hiatus with whiskey in hand, Irish whiskey, if you will. Took a 2-week trip to Ireland. I don't know. What did you do, Scott? Did you do anything? You just chill out and you're like, I'm going to talk to Brian for 2 weeks? Or?
You know what? I curled up in a ball in the corner for the 2 hours and just pouted, really. So
sorry, man. I'm back now. I'm here for you.
The dogs appreciated it. We actually went fishing. So
nice. Yeah. So back, Ireland was really cool. Lots of takeaways. I don't know if we're going to touch on that like too much today because we have so much else to cover. But I will say the one takeaway that I did get from Ireland, I've been telling a couple clients of, is like the glamping scene is really similar over there as it is here. And what I mean by that is like, it's obviously different, but like there's two main schools of thought that we've often talked about here on this show. And it is the difference between the operators who are just putting the glamping units side by side, 2 or 3 feet apart. And, you look at a field and you're like, all right, well, like if you've never glamped before, like you're like, this is a room. And you're like, or if you have, right? Like as you've seen the trend of that glamping and that data and that stuff kind of goes down. Now in Ireland, sometimes it's a little easier because, well, there's dramatic cliffs and all like it's right. And so you can put those side by side and point them toward the ocean on an island. And you're like, all right, this is a little bit better, right? They're still side by side, but I'm not looking at a field or whatever. But then there's the people who truly try to make a difference. And so it's the same thing, right? Like those people are the unique, like the last night that we stayed in a glamping place there, like the 3rd night before we left, before we hit Dublin, we stayed in a custom treehouse and like it was hand built by the guy during COVID. It was 2 separate buildings. Like the bedroom was in one building, just the bed. And then like they had these just huge glass windows where you could overlook the valley of trees. Like there was a rope bridge to get to. It was pretty cool. But then everything was weaved together with tech. Like we're talking about before the show, Scott, and we'll talk a little bit about here, like the intersection between technology and AI and campgrounds and how there's going to be some people that hate it and some people love it. But there's also going to be people that like use it without even realizing they're using it. Operators can use that kind of stuff. And so there's like skylights with automatic blinds where you could talk to Alexa. And then if you were a tech person and you didn't want to enjoy nature, I don't know why you're staying at this treehouse anyway, but let's pretend you were. Then the screen comes down. There's a projector. There's a PlayStation you can play in the corner, right? Like I didn't actually turn it on to verify it works. I think it was, there. But just those little touches, right? Like the guy had a little ice maker outside the door, like a tiny little Walmart one for $100, right? Like just those little tiny touches that you don't even realize are important or valuable. Like we didn't even use the ice maker, but it still was like, oh shit, there's an ice maker. That's kind of like, why doesn't everybody think of that, right? So just that was interesting to see that how it is different, but it's also similar in many ways from the glamping perspective. So it was really nice. It was a good trip. I had some Irish whiskey. No, that's not true. I had a lot of Irish whiskey. There's a bar in Dublin called the Whiskey Reserve. Scott, have you ever been to Ireland?
I have not.
Okay, so let's do this real quick. There's Jessica. Go to Google Maps. Just open up a new tab and go to Google Maps. We'll share it. And then, do you know where Ireland is, Jessica, on a map? Yeah. Zoom all the way out, and it's over by the UK. You could probably just search it. You could just type in Ireland and then zoom out and show me the whole island. You know what? I should do it over here. That's actually a better idea. Let me share it over here. So anyway, we went to this bar in Dublin while I'm pulling this up, right? Called the Whiskey Reserve. And it apparently is the largest collection of tasteable whiskey in the entire continent of Europe. So like open bottle, pour whiskey, right? Crazy just amount of stuff that you have available to you there. So share my screen, Jessica, over here. just bear with me because like I'm using this awkward trackpad to zoom out because I don't have a mouse over here. I think there's actually like a zoom in and zoom out down here that I don't use, right? No, because we're going to talk about the thing of. So she asked if she wanted to share the whiskey reserve. But no, we want to talk about Ireland. So like, do you have an interest in going here, Scott, one day?
I do. I do.
Yeah. Okay, so this is going to be like because we like to open the show with things that we have no expertise in whatsoever, and shouldn't be talking about on the show, right? This is the thing. Okay, so like over here, you flew into Dublin. You will hear from a lot of locals that like they don't go like locals in out everywhere else, right? Who we talk to are like we don't go to Dublin. Like there's not like there's a lot to do in Dublin. There's like Guinness is there. This whiskey reserve bar is there. There's a Jameson like tour there, but that's not where they distill the whiskey. So there's some things to do in Dublin, right? But like it depends on what you're going to Ireland for. If you're going to Ireland for what, in my argumentation or argument, you should go for is like the outdoors, the cliffs, and all that kind of stuff. You're not really going to Dublin. So we flew into Dublin. We drove south. We stayed around this area. And then we drove over here. So like there's this place over here called the Ring of Kerry, which is like a drive. But like this is the part that I personally didn't like or I like the least about Ireland because this over here is where all the tourist buses go. Ireland has really tiny roads, and the tourists tried to assassinate us like 4 or 5 times. Like and I know like this is my own thing, right? But like I don't like tourists. Like, I don't like the people who fly to a country and are like, we have now experienced Ireland because we flew to a country, got on a bus, got out at a stop, and went shopping, and then got back on the bus. And like, you did not see Ireland. What are you talking about? So anyway, there's these buses that go all this place, and they drive around the Ring of Kerry, and it's in whatever. But once you get out of there, like, there's this really cool like peninsula area here called the Dingle Peninsula you can go to. Like we went up all the way around the coast here, right? So like Kilrush over here, there's these beautiful like if you read anything about Ireland, this is their secret tip for everybody who's watching us, okay? If you read anything about Ireland, you're going to see some of the main sites that you should see are like right up here somewhere. It's not shown on the map, but there's the Cliffs of Moher. Super commercialized. It will cost you 30 euros to park there. Well, 15 euros per person to park there, even if you're in a car, right? Like, so two of us was 30 euros. You walk up, you see beautiful cliffs, right? But it's all commercialized. It's all paved. There's stores there. Like it's right. But if you go an hour south to right here to Kilkee, like all along here is the cliffs of Kilkee, and there's no fences, and you can walk right up to them, and there's natural bridges, and it's just gorgeous. And I think it's more beautiful than Moher was, and there's no parking, and there's no people, and there's no tourists, and it's just beautiful. So anyway, like, and then there's this place Galway, Scott, that like we closed down the bar here. Are you Irish at all?
I am.
Okay. So have you been to like, well, you haven't been to Ireland, so you haven't really been here, but do you know what a traditional Irish bar is?
Not really.
Okay. So like a traditional Irish bar, obviously there's many different definitions of it, but like in the older days, they like for one, we were told traditional Irish bars, not pubs. There's a difference. Irish bars don't serve food, but then often on like Friday nights at like 10 o'clock, they'll just have like local musicians come in with like flutes and stuff like that, and they'll play like the old timey Irish music. So we closed down one of the bars. Like there's this really famous Crane bar in Galway. Like we closed that thing down. Like they were playing flutes, and it's so cool, Scott. Like they have this organic thing where like like somebody from the town will just walk into the bar, and it's crowded, it's packed, right? Like standing room only, but they'll just walk into the bar, and then just organically they'll be like go up to the band and be like, "Hey, can I sing a song?" And they'll just start singing, and the band will start playing along with them, and it's crazy. It's so cool to experience. It was one of the coolest things that I've seen in Ireland. But like, so anyway, so we went up like all there around the coast. Like the West Coast is really the big one, and then we went into Northern Ireland too. Belfast is super interesting, man. Like, you've heard stuff about the IRA, right? In
Oh
Belfast.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Belfast is fascinating to me, man. Like, it's obviously like all Protestant Catholic. We didn't stay there. It's not all Protestant Catholic, but like that's the whole history of Belfast, right? And like there are still walls huge walls and gates between the Protestant and Catholic neighborhoods. And some of the gates still close at 7 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow.
We took like a black taxi tour around there and looked at all the history and the violence and all that. And it's not really a religious thing, but it started as a religious thing and then evolved, right, into, different people using that as an excuse. And it's very nuanced, and I'm not doing it justice here, right? But like, there's still houses you can see. Like every neighborhood has a memorial garden. Like no shit. Like there's like 2,000 or 1,000 plus memorial gardens all over the city in each neighborhood that have like really nice plaques and gardens to all the people who got shot and died and got bombed. Like every neighborhood has their own individual garden of the people who like died who lived on that street. Like it was violent. Like the bars
It was
have
very, yeah. Yeah.
cages that used to come down in front of the doors, and they would lower the cages so that you couldn't just walk by and toss a bomb into the bar. Like the back of some of the houses that are right up against the border fence have cages that go over their entire yards, like silver metal cages, right, over the whole yard. And it's not a big yard, right? It's like 5, 6 feet or whatever. Or at least the one we saw was, to prevent somebody from tossing from the Catholic neighborhood or the Protestant neighborhood, right, whichever verse, from tossing a Molotov cocktail over the fence. They built whole cages around their yards to prevent Molotov cocktails from being tossed into their yards. I mean, this is just, it's a fascinating history, right? But there's still that segregation and separation there, even though the violence is mostly gone now, right? But that was really interesting for us to learn about. And then Dublin was actually pretty cool. But anyway, that's my little thing of Ireland. So like, we ran around the island. Like ideally, I think I would have spent a little bit more time slowing down, seeing some cliffs, stuff like that. But we were there for 12 days. Like it was some driving, but it was pretty fun. That's my weekly thing. So what about what? Isle of Man is part of the UK. So there's lots more we would see, and we would go back there and all that kind of stuff. So what was on your desk the last 2 weeks? I guess, Scott. It took up, that was
Well,
my thing.
for me, really, it's kind of this run up to the glamping show and thinking about that and thinking about everything that's been kind of going on in the industry and what's, kind of feeding into that. It's like, let's face it, the glamping show is pretty popular. Sorry about the dogs in the background. I'm here
Totally fine.
by myself with the dogs, and the FedEx guy just showed up. So
They always have really good timing, don't they?
they do. It's perfect.
Hmm?
Yeah. Half the time they leave the packages at the end of the driveway, but today he brought it. So
Oh, how nice of him.
yeah. Anyway,
By the
looking
way,
at
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but like, do you know how to smell whiskey correctly? Because I don't think I ever knew.
I don't. I just smell it and be like, oh, that's good. Yeah.
I have looked on YouTube and I have done so many of these things before. Like I thought I knew how to sniff. Like I don't know how to discern the notes and all that stuff, right? But we were at Jameson on a tour, and they told us like you have to breathe it in once, and you'll smell the ethanol, and then breathe it in again, and leave your mouth open. Oh, it's so cool! Like you can smell so different stuff if you smell it and leave your mouth open while you're smelling it. Nobody's ever told me that, and I never found that in a YouTube video. Never heard anybody say that before. But it's crazy. So anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm doing that next time. Yeah, the kind of the glamping show and what's going on in that industry, this year feels a little different to me. And I've just been kind of processing a lot of that. It feels like the whole hospitality industry, and I think we'll end up talking about a lot of this this afternoon here, is it it feels like things are changing, and you're starting to see some and I bring this up just because I've had a lot of inquiries the last 2 weeks from
Okay.
people who like I've had a couple of people who just have apparently some extra money lying around, and they want to do they want to open some kind of glamping park,
Okay.
and but they don't really know what it is they truly want and what it's all about. They've just heard that that's what they want to do, and the reason I bring it up is because a couple of these folks have mentioned that they don't want to do Airbnbs. They don't want to, build like homes necessarily. They want to build kind of a community, and you know have that be their model.
Okay, so not individual, like even because to me, like when you say Airbnb, I thought where you were going with that for a second was like I want to be glamping and not Airbnb, but that's not like glamping can be on Airbnb. We stayed on a really cool ship
Right,
in
right,
Galway in the harbor that like I consider glamping. So, but anyway, sorry, continue.
right. No, no, no. You're exactly right. It's like instead of like it being a home, a larger structure, they want to have it be a little bit more, like I said, community based and a little bit more experiential. And but on the other side of it are still a lot of people who just want to put up structures and think that people are going to show up.
Mhm.
And
Well,
that,
60 years in, they're still building parking lots, man.
yeah, yeah. So it's you know, and I think about that as we're is in the run up to the show, and you know, what I'll be kind of keeping an eye out for next week is that you know what's the differentiator there? What are people really, you know, looking for? And I really want to talk to people about what they're um, seeing out there themselves, like the people who have, like, say, been in business now for a year. What happened? Um, I'm really curious to hear from them and see what kind of what the demand is. What you know when people show up, like what do they want? What are they looking for? Because it does feel like, and I think I might have mentioned this the last time, is that we're seeing a little bit of erosion in the perception of the glamping experience in terms of the value of it, and that it's declining a bit. It
Yeah.
used to be, you know, it wasn't just a year ago. We saw the value that people assigned to a glamping experience was right up there with camping, and now it's actually below hotel stays. So the industry is it's one of those things where you know I'm not going to be all negative about it, but that this is an indicator to me that the industry itself needs to pay attention to that and pay attention to what the guests are looking for in their experiences.
I think you're going to find when you talk to the people at the glamping show that the answers that you get are going to be all over the map, right?
Probably.
I think there are people who had a bang up amazing year. I think there are people who had a shitty year. I think there are people in the middle. I think it depends on where your location is and when you were built and what your brand is and how much marketing you've done and what's changed or not changed over the last year or so in your specific micro area versus macro. Do you have blue collar workers or white collar workers? Are you in the area where all the people got laid off from Google, or like just an example, right? Like I think there's just, and I think that's part of the confusion. I think as we move forward into some of the things we'll talk about later in the show, we're going to cover some AI news first. But as we move into that hard conversation that we're going to have about the changing economics as we see them, and many others do, which we will provide evidence for and data points and quotes and all the things to back it up. But as we move toward that future, like what is the balance? How do you see that? How do you navigate it? How do you and I don't think anybody has any clear answers yet, but like it's time to have a discussion, and that's what we want to do on this show because you're starting to see it now. Like you've heard, if you know me and you've talked to me on the phone, I've been screaming about this for 2 years that this shit is coming. That right, employment is in trouble, jobs are in trouble. The era where you trade your work, your time for a paycheck is quickly coming to an end. But it's not a doomsday thing. Like it is short term, right? But it's not a long term doomsday thing, and so we'll get into all that later. Um, but yeah, the data is there. I think that's part of the problem though, is it's all over the map, right?
Hmm.
And when you look toward like I'm gonna go to let's just pretend I'm going to the glamping. I mean, I am going to the glamping show, but like I'm an operator going to the glamping show, and you're like, you know, I want to talk to my peers and figure out how things are going. And one says really good. And, or maybe your circle of friends is like all the things are up, and somebody else's circle of friends are like, or all the things are down. And then there's some mixed. And then the association saying, well, we have data that says it's up or down or left or right or sideways or whatever. The fuck are you supposed to take away from that? Right. Like you can't really take any actionable data. And so I don't think it's clear, and I think it's going to get even more murky. And you talk about the nuance of things, like all of these things are different. What experience do you provide? How are you different? Are you low end? Are you high end? Are you focused on the experience? Are you putting things side by side? There's so many things that go into this that people just want to know, are you up or down, and what's the pulse of the industry? It just doesn't work like that, right? It's the same thing as all the studies that over the years that they released about coffee is good and coffee is bad and coffee is good and coffee is, or are you testing Folgers, and did the person also eat at McDonald's? Or are you testing like the craft coffee from Ireland and the person, eats all organic? There's so many things that go into the question of what did the coffee do to your body or not do to your body. And that's where I think like people like you are going to be super critical to sort through all that, Scott.
That's what I'm trying to do, man. Correlation is not causation. The best thing, I heard someone mention this on one of my Stat Geek podcasts, and it was when people are talking about correlation versus causation, he said, if you look at correlation, you would say that ice cream causes shark attacks, because as increases in ice cream sales, as there are increases in ice cream sales, there's increases in shark attacks. But both happen in the summer. There are more people in the water, more people eat ice cream.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you have these two very, very separate things, but they're actually correlated. But
did you ever see those DirecTV commercials? Why you should not get cable? Why you should get DirecTV? Did you ever see those?
I'm not sure if I've seen them.
Oh, I'll have to find one, and I'm gonna try to find one in a second, because they're exactly what you're talking about. Correlation, the ice cream versus the shark attack, right?
Right.
It's in there. We'll try to find them. Cable versus DirecTV. Let's see. Don't get cable. All right, I don't know what this one is. We're just gonna hold on. I'm gonna send you a link to this. Look at. So, Jessica, go to YouTube. Look up DirecTV. Look up that title of that thing. Yeah, DirecTV, get rid of cable, the full compilation. We're not going to watch the full compilation, but no, because you can't hear the audio over there on mine. DirecTV. You can use that one. So anyway, but correlation to causation is what you're talking about, right? So while she looks this up and we have a little bit of fun, the idea is that like people just need to get into the weeds of some of this stuff.
Right? Exactly. And that's why we've talked about this
Fourth one down
in this show, that having campground owners and operators look at your internal data, to really look at that, and then look at what's going on externally and look at the factors that are impacting that. And that's what you need to do. You need to evaluate your own individual situation.
Yeah, I mean, because everything impacts everything. All right, play this real quick. We're not going to watch all this, but
too much for cable, you feel down. When you feel down, you stay in bed. When you stay in bed, they give your job to someone new. When they give your job to someone new, he has a lot to learn. When he has a lot to learn, mistakes are made. And when mistakes are made, you get body slammed by a lowland gorilla. Don't get body slammed by a lowland gorilla. Get rid of cable and upgrade to DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV.
Scott.
When you have
one
cable,
more. Let's switch one more.
That's exactly it.
And can't record all your shows, you feel
good.
Unhappy. When you feel unhappy, you go to happy hour. When you go to happy hour, you're up for anything. When you're up for anything, you head to a Turkish bathhouse. When you head to a Turkish bathhouse, you meet Charlie Sheen. And when you meet Charlie Sheen, you reenact scenes from Platoon with Charlie Sheen. Don't reenact scenes from Platoon with Charlie Sheen. Get rid of cable and upgrade to DirecTV.
Those are
Call
great commercials.
1-800
If you've never seen that, you
DirecTV.
got to go watch that, Scott.
Yep. Those are awesome. Yep.
Yeah. Do you remember those now, though?
I do. I
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Not after you played them, I absolutely remember.
Yeah, these are great. So anyway, so like you have to study that, like obviously, I mean, you could reenact Platoon with Charlie Sheen, but like you have to, it's the causation and correlation, and like you have to get into the nitty gritty. And it is so wonderful to go to a conference and network with people and talk to them and gain understanding about their businesses and what they're doing and the ideas that they have. All that is magic, right? But I think the line you have to draw many times is like, how did my business do? Because that's different for them versus you in almost every single case. There are exceptions, but almost every single case. So you can get the ideas of, here's new accommodations I tried, or here's new things my guests love, or here's new amenities, or here's new activities, or here's new services, or new automations I've done, or got rid of automations, or put in hot tubs, or all that is golden. But when you get to the point where like the business math, there's so many different variables. I don't know if you could, what can you take away from that, Scott?
I think that what you do is you kind of look at, if you're the individual business owner, you look at, did you make any changes this year? If you did, what were those changes, and did they directly impact your business in any way? Is there any way to identify whether or not there is a relationship between the changes you made and your change in business, or is it more along the lines of everything changed in my area, everybody else changed? It was independent of what I did at my level, and sometimes that's hard to determine. And sometimes you have to do your own on the ground sleuthing. Find out what happened with your competition, what was going on in your area. Did other people see the same thing? And then that'll help you decide whether or not anything that you did individually impacted your business to a degree, for better or worse.
All right. We're going to dive into some AI news in a second. But first, I want to set the stage here and talk about what we're going to be talking about, right? And just so you can think about it as we talk about the AI news, the audience can think about it. As we talk about AI news, like we are going to dive in to the fact that I have a strong belief, and so do many others, again, who will back up with facts and data and quotes from economists and AI people and like lots of big thinkers who are way smarter than me, including AI itself. If you look at employment as a whole and the idea that we have to trade our time every day for a paycheck, it is scope of history a small drop in the bucket, right? Like it's less than 1,000 years old. Like it's probably less than 400 or 500 years old, where everybody like regularly did it, right? And that history really doesn't matter. But the point is it's small. It's not the way things have always been done. It's the way things you remember have always been done. And AI is going to change that. And so if you take a step back, like you can be a believer, you cannot be a believer. It's okay to hate AI. It's okay to have animosity toward AI. It's okay to think AI is not fair. It's okay to say that it shouldn't be allowed to steal other people's work. It is plagiarism. All of those things, I don't even disagree with some of those things. I'm not here to say that, like you obviously know I'm pro AI, but I'm not here to say this is the way because this is the one-sided way I believe everything, right? This is the way I want to see it play out. If you step back and research this for yourself, this is the way it will play out. Now, am I going to be right on the timeline? Nope. Am I going to be wrong on the way it happened? Or am I going to be right on the way it happens? Nope. Is it going to play out anywhere close to what I'm saying now? Probably not. But it is going to take a majority of the jobs. Because if you sit back and you answer yourself like the one basic question, other than human connection jobs, other than the ones that you want a human in, your therapist, or you want to watch actual NBA players play in the NBA, and there will be a separate robot league, right? But that like you want fair competition. You don't want LeBron getting crushed by the Terminator, right? Like, and I can't think of there's plenty of other human interaction jobs, right? But other than those, that human connection one where you deeply want to resonate and be empathetic, a camp host is a good example, right? Of somebody. Then, like, sit back right now and think about it in your head and name me a single job that artificial intelligence software or AI with robots is incapable of doing that will ever be created in the future. Anything? You have anything, Scott?
Not off the top of my head. I'd have to think about that for a while. But yeah.
Now, there will be new jobs that will be created from a human connection standpoint. There will be demand from certain sectors of society to have, let's call it nostalgia, right? There will be a premium placed on, and I've been telling my Uber drivers this for like 6 years, right? When I get in the car with Uber with self-driving cars. Like, man, if you are a good talker and you're a good conversationalist and you can tell people about the area that you're driving through or strike up a conversation and relate to them or whatever, boy, like, you're going to get paid 20 times what you make now, because like human drivers will be scarce as long as they're legally allowed on the road, right? They'll be scarce, and people will pay you 20 times what you're making now to have the nostalgic feel of a human driving them around. And so things that we make scarce will have more value and will still have jobs. But the amount of those jobs that will be available to replace what is here now is insignificant. The entire economy is going to have to be rewritten around the fact that we as a society will no longer have to trade our time for jobs unless we really want to. Now, there will be jobs, right? But there's not going to be enough jobs. And if you look at, and we'll go through some of these numbers, right? But if you look at history in the Great Depression, I don't know how much you know about the data here, Scott, or not, but like, and we'll look at some facts and figures I have pulled up to make sure that I'm not full of shit. Well, mostly full of shit. If you look at the height of the Great Depression, I think it was 25% unemployment. And that was only for a couple months. It was really the high teens, like low to mid teens, I think. And so you're not talking about we need AI to take all jobs before we have a crisis. You're talking about 6 to 8% unemployment numbers where it starts to get really nervous and scary for people, right? And then you talk about 10% unemployment where everybody starts to freak out. And the only thing that they talk about is that. That's not a very high bar. And when you look at what is happening, we'll just pick on the United States, for example, right? For a second, when you look at what is happening with the unemployment numbers in the US, and you tell me if you think I'm wrong about this, Scott, because you know more about data. I think the unemployment number, the true unemployment number of Americans who are unemployed is much higher. Not much higher. That's not true. A couple percentage points higher than what they're actually reporting, because I think that number is being held down by the immigration raids and deportation that the Trump administration is doing. I think it's counterbalancing each other. What do you think?
Yeah. Yep. By the way, the unemployment, I mean, when it hits double digit, that's when people start to freak. I think it was like 10, 11% in the early 80s, even. So, and that was considered like really, really bad, like the worst time since the Depression.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, we'll get into all that in a second. We want to have a serious conversation. We want to have a thoughtful conversation. We don't want to scare you, but we are going to scare you because we have to, right? Very few people are having this conversation. Governments aren't having this conversation. Because how do you have a conversation as a government, as an elected official about something like this? How do you go to your constituents and even begin a conversation that says you might not have your job in a few years, not 10 or 20, in a few years because of this? And by the way, right now, we really don't have a plan for how you're going to support your family or anything else, but we're willing to talk about it. You can't even have that conversation because there would be like rebelling and panicking. And then there would be a politician that also comes in who says like, well, no, that's not true. We'll guarantee your jobs are safe. Just elect me. And then the people will be like, okay, let's elect this guy. He says our jobs are going to be fine. So like, it's hard. what we need to have this conversation as a society, because if you step back and objectively look at everyone, and there are probably a couple exceptions, 95% of people in the AI world who study this shit and look at this stuff, AI and robotics, will not argue the point that like we are really fucked from a job perspective, and it's coming very, very fast. And we need to have a conversation about what that economy looks like now so that we can get past that. Like, it's going to be hard to push through it, but on the other side of that, I think, is a really nice utopia. So we'll dive into all that in statistics in a second. But first, anything else you want to talk about, Scott, before we jump into AI news?
No, I think that's great. I think it's a great lead-in to this conversation. Let's have it.
All right. Let's talk about some AI news first, because I want you guys to see how fast some of the technology is advancing too. We have 2 weeks that we need to catch up on. So let's just go left to right, Jessica. So we'll do the, yeah, you got to share the screen. So we'll do the Meta Ray-Ban display glasses first. These were announced, I think, last week. So we'll watch that video. And then, yeah.
Daydream, I fell asleep amid the flowers for a couple of hours on a beautiful day. Daydream, I dream of you amid the flowers for a couple of hours. Such a beautiful day. Daydream.
All right, let's watch the second one. If you hover over that, Jessica, if you go to the tab you're on right now, see that little icon that's a white circle in the middle of the bottom left of the screen that you're looking at right now? Yep. See that like bright white circle with an up arrow? Yep. Grab that and just drag it to the corner. That's my little click up thing that likes to just click on it and drag it. It's my little thing that likes to pop up in the middle. So like it's just hanging out there. It doesn't go away. Anyway, go to the second video, meet the world's most advanced glasses. And we're going to just dive into this and we're going to have a little conversation about this, Scott.
These are glasses with the classic style that you'd expect from Ray-Ban, but they're the first AI glasses with a high-resolution display and a whole new way to interact with them, the Meta Neural Band. That's this guy. All right, now, the display is large enough to watch a video or read a thread of messages. It appears in one eye. It's slightly off-center, so it doesn't block your view. It is very high resolution and very bright. I mean, like 42 pixels per degree, which is sharper than any major headset that's out there, and up to 5,000 nits of brightness. So it is crisp whether you're indoors or outdoors on the sunniest day. And then there's the neural interface, the Meta Neural Band. So for the glasses, we are replacing the keyboard, mouse, touchscreen, buttons, dials, with the ability to send signals from your brain with little muscle movements that the neural band will pick up so you can silently control your glasses with barely perceptible movements. We have built a neural interface into a durable, lightweight, comfortable, and good-looking wristband. We wanted to make it really easy to send and receive messages. So it's good to just be able to type without anyone seeing. And so now I'm going to be able to open up Meta AI with a subtle tap that you're probably not even going to see. Play California Dreamin'.
From Spotify, here's California Dreamin' by the Mamas and the Papas.
All right, and if I want to adjust the volume, I act like there's a volume control in front of me, and I can just turn it, and there we go. with the Ray-Ban Metas, they're going to be able to turn up the volume on a friend. But with the display, you could do even better. You can put subtitles on the world.
Yeah, let me get it going right now.
All right.
We're ready for it.
If you have an issue hearing, then I think that this is going to be a game changer.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also cool, it can do translation. So if I'm talking to somebody who speaks a different language than me, I'll get a translation in my native language right on the display, real life subtitles.
All right, should we show the camera? Let's do it. All right, so let me just go ahead and pull up the camera. I got a lot of missed calls from you.
Yeah. I
don't know what happened.
I was trying to call you.
I don't know what happened.
Were you busy?
Yeah, all right. All right, what should we take? You got some sick shoes, man.
Some Alex Alpert Oakley's
yeah,
here.
There you go, all right. I'll take some photos. You know what? Let's go ahead and take a video.
Thank you.
Say hi, you want to wave? All right, there you go.
Huh?
Pretty amazing new things. The last thing that I want to show is a glimpse of how this is going to work with agentic AI. In every conversation, there are normally like 5 things that you want to follow up on. The promise of glasses and AI is that they're going to help with this over time. So you just start a live AI session, and the glasses are going to be able to see what you see, hear what you hear, and they're going to be able to go off and think about it, and then come back and help you. The glasses are going to come in 2 colors. They're going to come in black and sand, and you are going to be able to buy the set for $7.99 in store.
September 30th. Couple days away, Scott.
Yeah, 6 days from now.
This is going to be available. And I think this is just one more example as we talk about the different things that we talk about on Outwired and how things are moving fast and how you need to pay attention to how consumers are discovering your campground. Like, they're going to, I mean, these original Meta Ray-Bans have been out for a couple years, but they've sold like, I don't know what the sales number is, like a couple million, I think, right? So these are not like niche products anymore. Well, they probably are niche, comparatively speaking, right? But they're not like these are only selling a couple hundred and you're not going to see these for years. They've released these for, they're selling really well. They've got partnerships with Oakley for sports glasses, not with a display yet, but this is a partnership with Ray-Ban. They look good. And again, this changes how people find information, right? I mean, they're going to, and I don't know if there's the red light, like my existing Meta Ray-Bans that I have a red light in the top when you're recording. I think they still will have that aspect to it. But from a privacy perspective, this is really interesting. From a, boy, you got to be careful I'm going to start with a negative here first, right? But boy, you got to be careful if you're a campground owner, what you're saying to a guest, right? Because there's a difference between like, all right, you're yelling at a campground guest. I'm going to get out my phone. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to take this. I'm going to hit record. You can shut yourself off. If they can just go with their fingers and record you, you better be very careful what you're saying that you don't want to be public, right? So there's that. Like, what are they going to take pictures of? What are they going to do video of? All that kind of stuff, right? Lots of privacy concerns that we need to sort out. But beyond that, like, this thing has turn-by-turn directions. This has the ability to, I don't know if it can browse websites. I would imagine that it could, but it can certainly pull up photos, as you saw. And so they're going to be looking at your park. They're going to be talking to AI and getting information about your property, all kinds of things, before they come, after they come, while they're there. And so this is just one more way of like the rapid, crazy speed that AI is changing the way we interact with the world and see things and do things. And you don't have to be for this. It's okay. Like, nobody's saying that everybody just has to fall in line. We're saying that you don't have a choice. I know how that sounds, right? Like, I know that sounds, but like, it is what it is. This is moving so fast and consumers are adopting this and they're putting hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars into data centers and AI. It's all over the place. It's not going to take consumers 5 years to adopt this. There are already 800 million weekly users of ChatGPT, 500 and some million of Google Gemini, a couple hundred million probably of, well, maybe less than that, but whatever, of Claude. And then you're talking about I think there was something like 170 million Alexa devices that are already in people's houses. that Alexa is going to put Alexa Plus in. There's all the Apple devices. There's all the Android devices. This is going to be everywhere. And so you must pay attention to this and how consumers are discovering all of this stuff. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, you can absolutely see how a guest would interact with your campground, with your park, with your, well, and the run up to it. But I mean, considering how they navigate the park, how they get, not just how they get around, how they find things, but like you mentioned too, how they document their experience. That's what they're going to do. People want to document their experiences. They love doing that. So it's going to be out there, and it's going to be live. And yeah, you have to be ready for it, because it's happening. And honestly, it doesn't take everybody having these. All it takes is a couple people visiting your park, and they're going to change what people see and what everyone else sees and what they experience. So yeah, you have to be prepared. It's already here.
It's pretty interesting. I feel like I probably should, maybe I shouldn't say this publicly. I probably should say this publicly. Whatever. Whatever. It's Outwired, right? I feel bad for the 360 tour people. You're just going to put on a pair of glasses and walk around your campground and record a video. Is it going to be exactly the same? No. Is it going to have all the interfaces and the arrows and all the things that all those good companies put in addition to that stuff? No. And we'll have that conversation another time. I don't want to get too distracted, but all right, that's number one. Let's look at a couple more. We want to move on pretty quick because we got a pretty hefty discussion we want to talk about today. Let's go to Amazon. Nope, not that one. Let's go to Amazon. Scroll down. So we're not going to watch this video. This is the only one I could find real quick off the top of my head, but go ahead.
Amazon is officially entering the robotaxi race, and that's because their company Zoox is launching their service to the public for the first time ever here in Las Vegas. These vehicles are completely different than anything that you've seen before. There's no steering wheel, no pedals, and it's completely symmetrical with 2 rows of seats that face each other. We're gonna go for a ride in one and see what it's like.
Okay, very cool. All right, first time in a Zoox. This is the first time now that we're opening up the app to the public and letting you go to a bunch of different high-profile destinations in Las Vegas.
Got it. Is the Strip something that's easy for a robotaxi or difficult? Because it's pretty straight road, right? But obviously many cars.
Yeah, it's not that easy, actually. You have a lot of traffic. You have people doing strange things. You have, 8 or 9 lanes across. Sometimes you have pedestrians crossing in the hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
So for your, perception and prediction and planning systems, you have to be tracking up to hundreds of agents at the same time.
Wow.
That's pretty tricky. We just did a right turn on red, by the way. You probably didn't even notice.
No.
That's a good thing. But the vehicle's constantly monitoring 360 degrees and able to do pretty advanced traffic maneuvers.
The key philosophical difference, right, is there's no steering wheel, there's no pedals. In many ways, you guys have started from the ground up, completely new vehicle. Why have you decided to stick with that philosophy throughout this decade of working on this?
We knew that with robotaxis, we could really reimagine the configuration, the architecture of the vehicle, not only for the interior experience, but also for safety and also for redundancy and reliability. You can shoehorn a robotaxi sort of, into something that used to be a car. It's just not an ideal solution. And we wanted to do that hard work and take the time and invest in that, and then bring something to market that's just much better than a car.
Okay, you can pause.
Out of that parking garage, a car was.
So we don't want to watch this whole thing, right? We have other things to talk about. But here's what we're talking about, right? We've talked on the show previously about reaching into cities that are nearby you if you happen to have a park that's located near a metropolitan area or even a large town, right? When these come, and they're going to come fast, they're here, right? But when they get to the point where they're scaled out, and you've got Elon's robotaxi, you have Google's Waymo scaling this stuff out to new cities. You have obviously Amazon that's launched this stuff. This is going to come pretty quickly to some of the major cities because they're all going to be in competition with each other, right? But it is not beyond the realm of possibility that within the next year, if you're near a city, that you have a Zoox or a robo-taxi or whatever deliver somebody to your campground who wants to go camping, right? So are you ready for that? Like, are you ready for, like, where is it going to pull in? Does it need to have a gate code? Have you thought about this? Will it drive them all the way to the site? Will it drop them off in front of your building and just make them walk? What's the guest experience to that if they have to haul all their luggage and all the things to the site? Like, these are the things that, like, I get it. There's 200 trillion things that are coming at you that you have to think about, but this is how fast the world is changing and moving. It's not just a chatbot when we talk about AI. Would you ride in one of those things, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've ridden in the Waymo in Phoenix before, so
I
Yeah.
actually have not yet ridden in a robo-taxi, but
yeah, it's fine. It's like once you get in there, it's I don't know. I think sometimes you feel better than you do. Depends on what your driver's like when they show up. But yeah, it's you do it a couple times, you don't even think about it anymore.
yeah, I mean, that's the quickness, stickiness of it, right? And then
Yeah.
we'll talk about that when we get to jobs later, but, like, that's gonna be, like, you hear often people say that AI will be better, faster, and cheaper than human beings at almost everything, and it will be. It's already better, faster, and cheaper at doing my job. It is. It's better, faster, and cheaper at doing your job, Scott. Other than, like the straight up job, right? Like the strategy, the higher level thinking, it's not there yet, but generally speaking, it's smarter than all of us already. And so you often hear that the mantra of, like, better, faster, cheaper. And we'll talk about the margins and we'll run some numbers on that stuff when we get into the discussion here in a second. But, like, there's a lot of train of thought around there's a actual negative, there's a net negative to human. Not just the AI is faster, but there's actually there's an upside to having AI because you can save costs and you can move faster and you can work 24/7. There's actually going to be a downside to having humans. And so when you look at that and hear what I'm saying, like, I'm not saying I love the way this is going. This is just, it is what it is. If you have a human driver on the road in 15 or 20 years, once this stuff gets to scale, right? It's going to take a while to get to scale. That's a net negative because the human driver is a much higher risk to crash than the AI is, to kill people, to get drunk and drive, to whatever else, right? And so that's one example of a human being a net negative. So, like, you have to think about all that stuff. I think let's skip the rest of it. We're going to skip the rest of it. We're going to go right into this discussion because I want to have it. So, there's a couple other things we talked about, like Google releasing Gemini in Chrome and on your Google TV and coming to Google Home and all that kind of jazz, but we'll save that maybe for next week. So, like, I think I ran a lot of stuff and research to try to prepare for this discussion as much as I could. And I want you to weigh in wherever you want to weigh in and can weigh in, Scott.
Okay.
I don't want you to wait for me to stop talking because I have a lot of stuff to cover. I want you to just say, like, hey, I just interrupt, right?
Okay.
I've got a lot of Socratic stuff to start with, right? So, like, if you look at, like, what actually happens, and so I put some of this through AI to make sure, and I've got some notes on the screen over here, but, like, I put all this through AI to make sure that I wasn't looking at it through a lens of, like, my bias as someone who's really interested in AI and stuff like that, right? I'm gonna pour myself some more poutine. I didn't have any Irish whiskey, Scott. That was the last of it, the green spot. But now I do have poutine, which is the original whiskey before it was whiskey. I've drank it on the show before. It's actually not made very many places in Ireland still, we found out. But it is, like, some of the farmers make it in the rural provinces and stuff like that. It's pretty good. You should try it sometime. Okay, so what actually changes when people stop trading labor for time? Tasks, and I'm just reading some of this stuff from my notes, right? Tasks, not humanity, get automated. Software agents do the office work. Robots do the chores. Companies cut payroll because CFO math says it's cheaper, faster, and available 24/7. You don't need all jobs to disappear for the economy to wobble. You need enough job loss or fear of job loss among the people who spend the most on discretionary travel. Why does that hit travel? When income is uncertain, households pause big purchases and cut nice to have trips first. That shows up first in premium products like glamping and destination cabins. Maybe we're already starting to see a little bit of that. I don't know. Then in financed RV households, last in time-rich retirees with paid-off rigs. So last there, right? So there's a little bit of insulation on that sector. How fast does this unfold? Faster than normal tech cycles because it's mostly software. CFOs don't need buildings or permits to deploy agents. Pilots become headcount freezes and then reductions. That fear alone shifts travel. When does it get scary? You don't need a depression. If headline unemployment lives around 7 to 8% for a couple of quarters and underemployment is in the low teens, the discretionary travel curve bends. Layer inflation or safety worries and you feel it earlier. That's the high level. What do you think of that to start?
I'm not sure what to say, what to think of it, honestly.
You and me both, man. That's why I've got more notes than I normally do. I have to be very careful and delicate about this subject.
Right.
None of us really know, but if you use your intelligence and talk to anybody, most people in AI and a lot of smart economists, they're all saying the same thing. So, what's your initial reaction?
Yeah, I'm still processing. So keep moving. I'll
Okay,
come
all right.
back to it. I'm
So
slow
who, what,
today. I'm slow.
who, what, where, when, why? Who's affected first? White collar plus back office tasks, reservations, billing, reporting, marketing ops, basic customer support, vendor procurement, routine on-site chores, mowing, restroom floors, trash runs, night patrol, linen runs. Who is least affected early? High empathy roles, hosts, de-escalation, storytelling, kids programming, nature guides, stuff like that, right?
Right.
What actually changes inside companies? A wedge opens between the cost of a human hour and the cost of an automated hour, and the wedge grows monthly. Work is rebundled. A few humans supervise many agents or robots. Simple CFO math, just an illustrative example, right? Suppose a company has 100 support reps at $60,000 fully loaded. That equals $6 million a year. If agents handle the same volume at 10 cents an interaction, and each rep did 1,200 interactions a month, the total annual interactions are 1,440,000. The agent cost would be $144,000 a year, which means the company would save $5.856 million a year. That's why the adoption is fast. Where does it start? Office districts and service-heavy industries first. Then it radiates into every business with phones, forms, schedules, and checklists. On the ground, properties with standardized layouts and SOPs are easier to automate. When does it bite? Phase 1 is now through 12 months. Headcount is already freezing. We're seeing this, right, Scott?
Mm-hmm.
Contractors are being cut. Hiring is slowed. We have data from the United States that will have the figures here later, so I won't misquote them, right? Hiring is slowing. Agents quietly take the night shift. Phase 2 is 12 to 24 months. Reductions in force where pilots are proved out. Fixed function robots expand. Phase 3 is 24 to 36 months. Assistive robots at scale for carrying, cleaning, simple setups. A few humans coordinate many machines. Why is this bad if only some jobs go? 2 reasons: composition and speed. Composition is a small slice of households accounts for a large slice of discretionary travel revenue. If, and you can check me on this, Scott, I'll give you a second. If 8% of households, many of them the heavy spenders, cut travel spending by 50%, total travel revenue can fall roughly 4%, and much more in premium segments because the spend is concentrated there. Illustration, if the top 20% of households contribute 60% of premium travel revenue, and 8% of all households, which is 40% of that top group, have their spend, premium revenue drops by about 12%. And that's before anyone else flinches. Software deploys in weeks, not years. Fear travels faster than facts. Households cut travel before they lose a job because they think they might. What do you think of those numbers?
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, that sounds about right. And that last point I agree with. When people get an inkling of anything bad times ahead or uncertainty ahead, they're going to cut their travel first. It's going to be one of the first things to go. So especially, again, that premium spender too is, they're spending a lot more on their trips. Granted, they have higher incomes, but they're also spending a higher proportion of their dollars on their stays. So it has a much more impactful change on them, and on and especially on the businesses that count on those dollars from those guests.
You were supposed to keep talking until I was done sipping the whiskey. There's an awkward silence there, man. We got to be on the same page here, okay?
Well, I wanted people to hear that last gulp, so that's impactful.
Thank you.
It's like the exclamation point at the end of the sentence.
How fast companies move. Why this time is different. Won't companies take years to reorganize? Answer, not when it's software. The adoption path is pilot a workflow, bookings, refunds, quotes, freeze hiring in that function. We're already starting to see freezing hiring. Standardize SOPs around the agent. Reduce headcount through attrition and cuts, and then scale to adjacent workflows. Each step is weeks to a quarter, not years. The competitive pressure is brutal. If your rival's cost per booking is 20 cents and yours is $3 to $4, price wars follow and the slower operator blinks. And this is what you will lead to, right? You'll start to have price wars. So we talked about this. I've had this thought discussion about, for example, 3D printing with operators for a number of years, where you look at 3D printing is much more advanced than most people understand. I mean, 6-7 years ago, they were printing houses in neighborhoods in Mexico. They were printed, right? They could print whole houses. When you can have one of these 3D printers on your campground, for example, or even if you just lease one, right, from a local company, and they bring it out and it prints a cabin on site, then you don't have to have those high delivery fees. And they were printing, I think, a house in like a simple 1-bedroom house in Mexico, I think 7-8 years ago for, I don't know, $4,000 a pop. Like, so when you as an operator or your competition as an operator can do something like that, all of a sudden they can charge $20 a night for a deluxe cabin and make 99% profit off of it, while you have to charge $150 a night to make a 60% margin. Then you're going to blink. Then you're going to blink and be like, well, bring in the 3D printer to me too. Oh my God, I can't, right?
Right. You have to respond to it. You have to. And
that's where then you talk about compounding things, right? And that will happen in the labor force too, as you look at like, well, my company has AI chatbots, selfishly speaking, right? And now I can make my bookings only cost that 20 cents or $1 to make a booking instead of what you would pay a human to sit behind a desk all day. You have to react then because the other person can cut their pricing quite a bit. And you're going to need to cut your pricing in an economy where we're talking about job loss, right?
Absolutely. And those differences are meaningful. It's not like you're competing on $10 or $20 per night. You're competing on a magnitude of difference in your nightly rate. So that's when it's really meaningful. Again, you can, people sometimes can kind of get past some of those minor price differences, but when it becomes when it hits a critical mass, as they say, that's when it's really going to change things for the individual in terms of when they start to implement their own changes.
All right, here's some more data for you. We don't need all jobs to vanish. The tipping math in plain English. Thought experiment. Imagine a travel market with slim margins and high fixed costs. That's outdoor hospitality, right?
Yep.
If 10% of your guests disappear or downshift, your occupancy can drop more than 10% because cancellations cluster on high price dates and products. With the same fixed costs, your break-even jumps. Here's some illustrative park math. Fixed costs, $1.2 million per year. Variable cost per occupied night, $18. ADR, $55. Break-even occupancy, 59%. If ADR falls to $45 to fill beds,
sorry,
break-even occupancy jumps to about 81%. Thin margins vanish quickly. These are teaching numbers, not a forecast. What do you think of those numbers? Do they make sense?
And that's stark. That's I mean, if you have to achieve I mean, I know it's illustrative, but it's that's still, if you have to hit that number, that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure.
When does a labor story become a travel story? CFO math leads to fear in households even before layoffs. Cancellations of premium trips, glamping destination cabins, regionalization of travel, shorter drives, cheaper nights, midweek stays. You already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Monthly pads up. Seen that this year, haven't we?
Yep.
Nightly ADRs under pressure. Park automation arrives because owners face the same math. The only way you can make the math work will be to automate. And if you're not thinking about automating now, like your competition is going to be very shortly, right? So what do you cut first, the $900 weekend yurt or the $60 pad an hour from home?
Right.
RVs versus glamping, which bends first? The first to soften is glamping and premium cabins. These rely on higher income, FOMO-driven buyers who are sensitive to layoffs and headlines. The next is financed RV households, younger owners with payments. Payment stress turns into selling rigs, postponing upgrades, and choosing monthly pads over trips. The least sensitive early, retirees with paid-off rigs, but they're still affected by fuel and insurance, but they're more time-rich. If your job feels shaky, do you keep the yurt weekend on the calendar or swap for a state park loop and pancakes at the site?
Right. Yeah.
Human reaction. What do people actually do? Stage 1, denial. It's a tech thing. It won't hit me. They still travel, but book later and cheaper. Stage 2 is the bargaining. We'll go, but closer, and we'll bring groceries. Stage 3 is precautionary saving. Let's skip trips until the bonus is confirmed. And stage 4 is normalization. New habits, midweek, long stay, value pantry, community programming. Will there be unrest or violence? You can't forecast incidents, but you can name conditions that raise the risk. Fast job loss in visible sectors. Rising youth underemployment, which we're already seeing. Rising youth underemployment, right? I think I have some of those numbers in here somewhere. Rent and debt burdens. Debt is the highest I think it's ever been in the United States, hasn't it? Not just national debt, but debt from consumers on credit cards.
Right. Individual debt is,
a perception that leaders are minimizing the problem. Practical takeaway for parks. Guests pick places that feel safe. Good lighting, clear sight lines, visible staff and hosts, gentle but clear rules. That matters more when headlines are tense. How government silence makes it worse. No narrative equals no planning. If officials keep saying new jobs will replace old ones, which most of them are,
Yep.
without acknowledging timing lags, households don't prepare and then overcorrect when cuts arrive. Mismatched training. People reskill into fields that are simultaneously automating. Policy vacuum. Without guidance on robots or agents in workplaces, lawsuits and confusion slow good deployments and speed bad ones. Would you rather hear this will hurt for 12 to 24 months, here's the plan, or it will all work out? Markets hate uncertainty, and so do families.
Yep.
Why AI will create enough new jobs is near-term wrong. Timing mismatch. Jobs destroyed this year versus jobs invented later. Bills are monthly. Skills mismatch. New roles demand fewer people with rarer skills. Geography mismatch. Jobs appear where you aren't. Automation of the complements. Many new roles are themselves automatable shortly after they emerge. Zero marginal cost pressure. Software scales without hiring. Revenue growth doesn't require headcount growth. If an agent can hire 1,000 more agents instantly, why would you hire 1,000 people?
Yeah, it's
The economy in plain English. Why travel is the early warning light. Most spending is paychecks cycling through businesses. When paychecks shrink or feel shaky, people pull back on discretionary spending first. That's travel, dining, and upgrades. Fewer trips lead to lower ADR. For the same fixed costs, leads to a margin squeeze, leads to businesses cut more costs, and the cycle tightens. Parks with automation survive because they cut routine labor and reinvest in human connection and safety, the only moats that machines don't easily cross. If your neighbor charges $45 and feels safe and friendly, do you pay $55 for a similar pad without those vibes? When does the crisis start? A simple threshold model. Call these tripwires, not predictions. Headline unemployment sustained 7 to 8% equals discretionary wobble. Underemployment in the low teens equals wide stress. Job openings per unemployed is greater than 1 equals bargaining power flips. Delinquencies on discretionary big ticket items up meaningfully equals RV resale spikes. Your local data, midweek occupancy slides, lead times shrink, and you need greater than 10% ADR cuts to hold weekends. What do you think of that data? Have you seen any of that stuff? Are we coming close to that?
yeah, that aligns. That aligns with what we see, especially in terms of what people report, and have in the past, in some of our past measurements, when you see some of these metrics change, whether it's consumer confidence, unemployment, cost of living increases, all that all aligns with what you will see and where people cut back first, and that's
all right. Let's back this up with some data. You got to share my screen, Jessica, and then you can. I had AI go out do some deep research. I told it to bring me back some quotes from people, from AI experts, from economists, from different things like that, right? You're good, Jessica. So Dario Amadea, the Anthropic CEO, so he's a big AI company, right? It does Claude. Amadea has been one of the most blunt technologists about the coming labor disruption. In interviews, he warned that AI could automate up to 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs within 5 years, and said it will happen faster than many expect. He predicted unemployment could reach 10 to 20%, and stressed that governments and AI firms should be honest about the impending job losses. Amadea argued that the first jobs to vanish will be those in tech, finance, law, and consulting, areas where workflows are largely digital. He said producers have an obligation to warn people, and noted most firms are not warning people. Andy Thurai, Cisco Field CTO, and I don't know how to pronounce her name, I'm going to butcher it, sorry, Dima Gutzit, Leap Expert CEO. These industry leaders caution that AI adoption is moving at an unprecedented speed. Thurai observed that businesses are compressing timelines and may be moving too fast, creating pitfalls. Goodsite similarly said the rapid pace of AI deployment is unprecedented, suggesting that many companies are over-automating. David Autor, MIT economist. Autor has long studied automation's impact and now argues that technology has destroyed more jobs than it has created since 1980. He notes that recent innovations focus on professional, technical, and managerial roles, making AI largely labor substituting. Autor warns that machines smarter than humans will increasingly replace workers and points to research showing 15 to 30% of jobs in developed economies are at risk. He adds that mass unemployment could be deflationary and would likely force governments to intervene. Kai-Fu Lee, venture capitalist and former Google China chief, Lee predicted in 2017 that AI would replace 50% of jobs by 2027. In a 2025 interview, he said his forecast is uncannily accurate and stressed that white-collar jobs will disappear faster than blue-collar jobs. He emphasized the importance of human qualities like compassion and empathy and urged workers to harness AI rather than fight it. I know this is a lot, but I think I just want to overwhelm people, if you're okay with that for a sec, Scott.
Sure. No, it's all stuff we all need to hear. We all need to hear it.
Tristan L. Botelho from the Yale School of Management, speaking about entry-level roles, Botelho noted that junior jobs involve collecting, transcribing, and organizing data, tasks that AI performs well. He said many managers believe they can reduce entry-level headcount and that the biggest disruption will hit low-level employees whose work is predictable and tech-savvy. Jensen Huang, NVIDIA CEO, Huang told CNN that everybody's jobs will be affected by AI and acknowledged that some jobs will be lost, although he also believes new ones will be created. This is the toe of the line from some of the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
New jobs will be created, to be clear. Right? We're not talking tomorrow about every new job being created AI will be able to do. It will create new jobs, but there's going to be a huge skill gap between the people who can do those jobs and the amount of new jobs that need created. Think about 1,000 customer service examples in our right? 1,000 agents replace 1,000 customer service workers that you would have otherwise needed, right? But then you only need 1 or 2 people to supervise 1,000 agents. How many would you need to supervise 1,000 people? So you don't need the people and you don't need the managers or as many managers. So it will create new jobs. His comments highlight that even executives driving the AI boom admit there will be significant disruption. Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI. Hinton recently told BBC Newsnight that he is very worried about AI taking lots of mundane jobs. He advocates for universal basic income and warns that economic inequality could worsen as AI displaces workers. Economists and analysts' perspectives. Let's move away from the AI people, right? Stephen Jen from Horizon SLJ. In a Reuters commentary, Jen argued that AI and robotics could rapidly accelerate job destruction, noting that technology may now be a net job destroyer. He predicted the trend would be deflationary and suggested the US and China are best positioned to harness these changes. Bill Adams from Comerica Bank. After the Bureau of Labor Statistics revised employment data, Adams said job growth in 2025 averaged only 44,000 jobs per month, down from the previously reported 75,000, showing the economy entered 2025 with less momentum. He argued that the labor market's slowdown strengthens the case for rate cuts. James Knightley, an ING economist, Knightley observed that the downward revision means the labor market's momentum was weaker than previously thought and expects meaningful interest rates cuts. Christopher Rupke commenting on weak August job data. Rupke said companies are hunkering down and refusing to hire, blaming tariffs and Washington's economic agenda for pushing the economy close to recession. There's just more about the same. Christine Krosverga pointed out that entry-level jobs are down 15%, while applications are up 30%. Employers are now referencing AI in job descriptions, and AI is disrupting entry-level roles. Pause for a second. Anything to think about that before we move on to data?
No, I think that all that it seems to me that it follows its logic. When you really think about the jobs and the positions that can be replaced, it's the percentages that are jarring. To see those double digit 15, 30% figures being thrown out there. That's obviously significant. And then you look at the impact it has on the younger people that are just entering the workforce and trying to find their way, having that kind of impact on them. It represents a big challenge for everyone, regardless of the industry you're in.
Yep. Data showing job market weakness. The Bureau of Labor Statistics preliminary benchmark revision in September of 2025. The BLS revised employment data, cutting 911,000 jobs, which is 0.6% of the workforce, from previously reported figures for the 12 months through March of 2025. So March 2024 to March 2025, we were basically like, oops, we fucked up. There was an extra almost million jobs that we thought we had in the economy that we don't actually have. That's the largest revision they've ever had in the history of the BLS, by the way. And that's March 2024 to March 2025. So this is earlier data, right? The revision reduced job growth to roughly half of what was initially reported, suggesting the economy added only about half as many jobs over that period. CBS News noted that after revisions, job growth in 2025 averaged 44,000 jobs per month, down from 75,000, and 2024 gains averaged 106,000, down from 168,000. Now, the number that I've heard tossed around is that the economy needs at least 100,000 new jobs a month just to keep up with the new kids graduating college, entering the workforce, is the number I've heard. Have you heard that?
Yes, it's right in that neighborhood, plus or minus, 10,000.
So all of 2024 only barely kept up with the college kids. Again, like if you know me and you're my client and you've heard me, you've probably rolled your eyes and said, you're fucking crazy. The economy is fine. Look at the stock market. Everything's being reported great. I've been saying this for a year and a half. More than that, right? But like 2024. Weak payroll numbers. Reuters reported that non-farm payrolls rose by just 22,000 jobs in August of 2025, with the unemployment rate ticking up to 4.3%. Now, we talked about that, right? The difference, like we think 4.3% is, I don't know what the number is, but it's being disproportionately impacted by the immigrants who are being deported. They are counted in the people who are, because they're here. Again, I don't want to get into politics. There's a chunk of those people who are actually in the United States legally, who are contributing to the workforce and who are registered as workers with work permits, and they're being deported, and they're thus counting against, like they're reducing participation in the labor force, which leads to an artificial lowering of the unemployment number. Did I explain that right, Scott?
Sorry, I keep muting my mic because the dogs. UPS driver showed up a minute ago. So
okay. How many packages are you ordering, man?
I don't know. We have to ask Denise, and she's not here. No, yeah. What was the question? Yeah, I'm sorry, I was totally distracted.
No, it was okay. Like unemployment is 4.3%, because of the fact that some of the immigrants that are being deported or taken out of the workforce by the Trump administration, some of those, forget about what the number is, are here legally, do have work permits, do have ITIN numbers, are getting legit paychecks and paying taxes. Those people, as they're being deported, are being pulled out of the unemployment pool of people who are seeking jobs, and thus it's disproportionately lowering the unemployment number.
Correct. And more people every month are dropping out. Even non-immigrants are dropping out of the actively seeking for employment roles. So though the actual people who are unemployed, not employed, is substantially higher than that.
It's so 4.3% is the highest in nearly 4 years. The same article noted that payrolls declined by 13,000 in June after revisions, underscoring stagnating job growth. Reasons for slowdown. Again, very few people you hear publicly are blaming AI. And nobody's saying this is all AI, to be clear, right? AI is a piece of this, but AI is going to be a quickly accelerating piece of this. And you're not going to see anybody screaming in a press release that says, you're going to see some people, but you're not going to see the majority of people, because there's going to be polarization, say like, oh no, we let people go and we replace them with AI. Economists blamed tariffs on imports, immigration crackdowns, and mass firings of public workers for the stalled labor market. Again, we're just reporting and reading. Okay. Investopedia also cited high interest rates and tariffs as factors hurting job growth. Economists' expectations. Some economists estimate that final revisions could reduce employment by about 800,000, I'm assuming more jobs than what was already reported. New grads and entry-level jobs. Sharp decline in entry-level job postings. Data from workforce analytics firm Revelio Labs showed that entry-level job openings for university graduates are down more than 35% since January of 2023. That's a staggering number. Highly AI-exposed entry-level roles declined by over 40%, while low-exposure entry-level roles declined by 33%. Non-entry-level high-exposure roles decreased by 27%, showing that junior tasks are being automated first. Impact on early career workers. A Stanford study found a 13% relative decline in employment for early career workers ages 22 to 25 in highly AI-exposed occupations since generative AI adoption began. The decline was concentrated where AI automates tasks. Employment remains stable where AI augments humans. Handshake and surveys. Handshake reported that entry-level job postings have fallen 15% year over year, while job descriptions referencing AI surged 400%. A survey of nearly 1,200 recent graduates found 59% described finding full-time entry-level jobs as very challenging. 79% believe AI is reducing these jobs, and 46% are considering temporary or gig work. Unemployment among new grads. The unemployment rate for recent graduates has climbed to about 6% versus a national average of around 4%. In the tech sector, unemployment among workers ages 20 to 30 has risen roughly 3 percentage points since the start of 2025 alone. What do we think of that data so far? It's pretty fucking sobering, isn't it?
It's very, very sobering. It's very, yeah. It again, I kind of stumble around a little bit on all this just because it's I'm trying to get my head around it, because these figures are huge. These aren't like 1%, 2%, 3% adjustments. These are, not just double digit, but large blocks, a third or more, a quarter or more. You start seeing that, and that becomes, as they say, that's when shit gets real.
AI-related layoffs. Challenger, Gray, and Christmas reported that generative AI adoption was directly linked to over 10,000 job cuts in the first 7 months of 2025. Directly linked. Most companies are not directly linking this stuff.
Correct.
Making AI one of the top 5 factors in layoffs, with just 10,000 jobs. Overall, U.S. companies announced more than 806,000 job cuts during that period, the highest since 2020. These are just the companies that, let me be clear, these are the companies that are announcing. These are the companies that send press releases. When the business in your town automates 2 customer service jobs, do they send out a press release? Nope. Probably not. These are public companies that are sending press releases for the majority of cases. So you better believe that 806,000 is much higher. Do you disagree, Scott?
No, not at all. Most of the stuff is highly underreported.
So contractors let go, etc. 500 contractors. Again, we don't have time to read all this, but job postings and unemployment ratios. Drop in job openings. The number of U.S. job openings fell to 7.181 million in July of 2025, the lowest in 10 months, leaving 0.99 job openings for each unemployed person. Again, that ratio is lower if you take away the immigrants and the unemployment number is higher, right?
Correct.
The first time since April of 2021, the ratio has slipped below 1, which we talked about earlier as being a factor. Economists cited tariff uncertainty and a decline in immigration as reasons for fewer available jobs. Overall job postings decline. Revelio Labs in August of 2025 Outlook reported that active job postings in the U.S. are 45% lower than in early 2022. And 4 of the 5 largest industries for new graduates have reduced advertised jobs. Unemployment among new entrants to the labor force rose by 275,000 to 985,000 people.
Oof. That's brutal.
Robots and automation adoption. Humanoid robot production. Figure 2 robots at BMW's plant can perform up to 1,000 placements per day in assembly tasks, demonstrating high volume, high precision performance. However, this refers to placements or actions rather than robots produced. The company's CEO says there's a path to ship 100,000 humanoid robots over 4 years. Again, the bottleneck is just the manufacturing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're not the only robotics company, averaging about 25,000 per year. AI in HR. IBM uses AI for 94% of routine HR tasks, such as writing performance reviews and drafting development plans, which has replaced hundreds of roles. Experts predict a 20 to 30% reduction in HR headcount per employee. Anthropic Economic Index. The index shows that 40% of U.S. employees now use AI at work, up from 20% in 2023. In enterprise usage, 77% of interactions with Claude AI involve full task delegation or automation, while only 12% involve augmentation. Now stop and think about that for a second, because all you're hearing is a bunch of people running their fucking mouths saying you that this is just going to enhance labor. People are just going to use AI at work and they're going to work faster and they'll be more productive. Here's the data right here in front of you. 77% of interactions with Claude AI, as studied by Anthropic, the fucking makers of Claude AI, involve full task delegation, while only 12% involve workers using it to be more productive, augmentation. This indicates that most businesses are adopting AI to replace human labor rather than complement it. So, lots of summaries. What do you think of this so far? You can stop sharing my screen for a second, Jessica.
Yeah, my takeaway is that all this is happening very fast, and that it takes a little bit of sleuthing to read between the lines. That there's a lot of polishing of the figures, because they don't, people don't want to attribute these losses and these issues to AI. They're not, because they know there will be a backlash at some level, even though people wouldn't know what to do, but it's coming. And it feels to me like people are trying to soften the blow a little bit, but
Sure.
it's happening it feels like it's increasing exponentially. It's like a year ago, you didn't hear a lot of this. Certain people like you were talking about it a year ago, but overall, the mainstream, press, the business community wasn't really talking about it openly anyway. So it's taken on a new life, and it just seems like even since the first of the year that things are increasing. And I think that even the most optimistic predictions are too optimistic. I mean, I think it's going to happen faster. It's going to happen a lot faster than what I think people are saying. They're being conservative in their estimates that it's going to happen a lot faster.
Well, because the technology keeps moving faster, right? So like if you follow AI, then you know that OpenAI and Anthropic are working on specific agents to perform specific tasks. So they're taking what ChatGPT is considered a generalized model, right? It knows everything about everything, but it doesn't do anything really, really well. If you look at a guy named Emad Mustak, who is the founder of Stability Diffusion, used to be a hedge fund manager, wrote a really good book that I have yet to read about the future of tomorrow and what economics looks like, and is the same thing, is saying the same thing that you're hearing from me, right? If you look at some of the things that he's saying about the future of unemployment, it's the same principle. I lost my train of thought there for a second, but it's the same. I'm talking about thinking about so many subjects and where I want to go and how I want to transition and what I want to get to in the next 20 minutes that we have together here, right? But if you look at like the speed at which this is going, I was talking about OpenAI and Claude, right? These two companies, that was why I brought up Emad. So he developed an AI that, do you know what a Raspberry Pi is, Scott?
Yes. Yep.
He developed an AI that is smarter than 90%, I think, of human doctors and has more empathy, that's installable locally on a Raspberry Pi. Super small computer. Jessica asked what a Raspberry Pi was. You guys can Google it. Or ChatGPT, because I don't have time to put up a graphic. But you can buy one for like $30 on Amazon. Okay? So like, if you look at what OpenAI and Anthropic are doing or being reported to doing in the background, they are taking their like a ChatGPT and they're stripping it down, but they're training a specific version of their AI models to be really, really good at specific tasks. So just like Emad trained one to be a doctor, you're getting OpenAI that's going to train a HubSpot master, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you as a company are going to be able to go to a marketplace and just buy an agent that's a HubSpot master. And it will come out of the box without any technical knowledge, install anything else, right? You'll just have to link it to your HubSpot CRM, and that thing will be able to operate completely everything that your person does who's your CRM master now. All you'll have to do is type in a chatbot and tell it what you want, or talk to it and tell you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
You will just have to install an employee for cents, pennies on the dollar. And that's how easy this is going to be. And you haven't even seen that start yet. That's here for those of us in the background with some technical knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what you're going to see is a marketplace come up from these companies that will just leash you employees for pennies on the dollar. You just have to click a button and hire somebody, and they'll be there. And they won't need training, and they won't call in sick, and they'll work 24/7, and they'll do the job perfectly without any mistakes every single time. That's what all of us are staring down, guys. That's going to be out. The start of those is probably going to be out before the end of the year. And when that happens, and when the companies who aren't tech savvy and don't have the AI people on staff and don't know how to implement the code and all the things that you have to do right now to automate it, like the Fortune 500 companies do, when that can happen, you wait and see how fast it accelerates then, especially if we're in a down economy.
Right.
So like, all that to get to my real point here, which is like, if you're a campground owner and you're just sitting here thinking about the things that most people talk about, is like, well, what if the economy doesn't go good? Or what if inflation continues to go up? Okay. All those narratives that you hear. some people talk about. If you like, most people are still talking about everything's going to be fine. The RV industry will just bounce back and everything will be great, and I don't need to change. We can talk about that in a different show, right? But like, and maybe that happens. I don't know, right? I don't think so. But like, as we've established, I will be wrong with some of what I'm saying. But like, there's a whole fuck of a lot of people who agree with me. So to get to my point, right? If you're a campground, who the fuck do you think is going to come camp with you if nobody has jobs? Silence for dramatic effect, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. Now you're going to have a group of those boomers who are retired, who have paid off their rigs, who are going to somewhat insulate a small number of the properties because they aren't like, they can't lose a job they don't have, right? But what will happen is those boomers will have kids and grandkids who are losing their jobs. And I can't remember who, I think I saw it on Bill Maher's show a couple months ago where he was talking about like an X percentage of, I think it was really high, like 50% of adult parents are paying $1,500 a month already today to support each of their children.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So when their kids lose their jobs and their grandkids lose their jobs, even if it's only 10% of them or 5% of them lose their jobs, who do you think they're going to choose to do first? Go camping at your campground or support their daughter to make sure she can feed her child with the savings that they have? So you think the boomers are safe, but the discretionary income they're using to spend on gas and traveling to your campground is not as safe as you think in an era where, especially the entry-level jobs, like we're literally talking about the boomers' kids or the grandkids, really grandkids, right? We're talking about the boomer grandkids, yeah. It's not as safe as you think. Like none of this is safe. You hear about public sector jobs. Well, like there's an argument to be made that public sector jobs would be safe, and we have many more public sector jobs up here in Canada than you do in the United States because we have more things that are government run, like healthcare and stuff like that, right? And so there's a narrative that like public sector jobs would be safer. And I used to think this for a while, like public sector jobs, and I do think a little bit, right? Because the government isn't pushed to be as efficient as some of the public companies are in Canada or the United States or anywhere, right? But how's the government funded? Income tax. What do you think is going to happen when there's a lot less income tax that the government can collect? Well, one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to cut spending, which feels like that will never happen in the United States. Opinion, right? From either party, right?
Right.
Nobody's being political here. It just is what it is. So they're either going to cut spending or they're going to print more money because they have to pay their debt. Less tax revenue doesn't mean you don't pay your debt. So the interest on the debt continues to skyrocket. I don't know, 37, 38 trillion, whatever the number is in the United States. So what happens when the government either A, cuts spending, they cut public sector jobs is one of the ways they cut spending, right?
Mm-hmm.
Easy. Or two, they print more money, and they print more money, it just means your currency is worth less. Supply and demand, whole another complicated explanation, right? But every time you vote for a politician that says they'll spend more money to make you happy, they're just increasing the debt, which is printing more money, which is deflating your currency. And anyway, whatever. It's all a thing. Public sector jobs are not as safe as you think. Entry-level jobs are already dropping. You're seeing this when it's like, again, you don't need a mass shift. You need 10%. And then it gets really ugly because nobody's talking about this. And I don't know what really ugly looks like. But like I'll say this publicly, I don't care. Like, I mean, maybe, I don't know, you agree with me or not, or whatever. Like, maybe I'll get canceled for this, Scott. Like, If you put me in a situation where it's between me robbing somebody or whatever else and feeding my family, I'm fucking robbing you. Do you know a mom who wouldn't do that for her kid?
Right? No.
If
When
we
people get
don't,
desperate, they do desperate things. It's yeah.
if we don't start having a conversation about this as a society and as a government level and publicly and recognizing that this is going to happen, my timeline might be a little bit wrong. Okay? But anyone smart who objectively does their own research and looks at the data will come to the same conclusion. It is going to happen. Even if it takes 20 years, which is no way, it's no way it's going to. Even if it takes 20 years, it's going to happen. You are no longer going to have to work if you don't want to. But that is not a situation like I need to emphasize this too. It is only a problem that you don't have a job if the government doesn't fucking talk about it and doesn't have a plan for how they support society without jobs. There are ways to do it. There are really smart thought thinkers who have talked about universal basic income, and Elon who's talked about universal high income and other strategies to use AI and robotics to lower energy costs. They're already lowering intelligence costs, all those things, right? To build data centers and build compute to make all the costs of goods cheaper. It's a problem that all the people are going to lose their jobs if we don't fucking talk about it. So here we are, little show, comparatively speaking, right? Trying to talk about it. Because it feels like to me, nobody wants to have the conversation because it's hard and it's tough and it makes people sad. It makes me sad. You think my fucking job's safe? Yeah, I own my company, but again, the same problem with people who own campgrounds. It's the same problem for me. If less people are going camping and your ADR is higher and you have to cut margins, then maybe you're going to cut marketing first. Now I'm pivoting into AI and I have what I think might be a plan for that, right? But like that means that impacts me and the ability of people that I have that can work for me, or the margins that I have, or the expenses I can make, or I'm not insulated from this. This is not me preaching and saying this is only going to impact you guys. I don't know what's going to happen either. But we have got to have this conversation, and it's got to be serious, and it's got to be sincere, because this will for sure happen. And on the other side of it, and the other side of it will be much closer to happening if we have a conversation. The other side of it is energy is abundant, intelligence is abundant. We can make almost everything we need, and everybody can have almost everything they want, except for the things we intentionally make scarce, like art or human taxi drivers or whatever else, right? We can. It's going to be brutal to get there. I really believe that. Now, it could be brutal for 5 years, or it could be brutal for 20, or it could be Elysium, the movie. I don't know. I'm not even going to pretend to know. Like the very nature of like super intelligence, when you even get to that with AI, and we haven't talked about that, right? Is that it's impossible to comprehend. None of us is ever going to figure out what's going to happen. We're just going to witness it all together in real time. But the sooner we start the conversation, the sooner we start to prepare for it, the sooner we start to plan for it, the softer the landing can be. Because it's going to be a transition. But like in the end, guys, like all the people who are watching the show, fuck all the campground owners who go in the Facebook groups and complain that the season's over, right? Like if you don't want to really be in hospitality, like maybe you'll have an opportunity to not be in hospitality. And that sounds shitty on the surface of like I've built my business and all the things. And I'm not saying that's the way it should go or the way I want it to go. I'm always going to want to run companies, right? But like maybe you'll have a chance now to do what you really want to do. Art or music or travel or whatever, right? Spend more time with your kids. Everybody worries about the purpose that you're going to have in life when this happens. Like, and I think a big part of the problem is that our identity has become like, what is your purpose? Well, here's what I do for a living. No, what is your purpose? You have kids and you have a family and you have pets and you have loves and interests and hobbies and desires and passions. You telling me you can't find a purpose out of all that shit? Some people won't, for sure. But I think they're a minority, a very small minority. But you can have a purpose in life that is not your job. But if we don't talk about this, it's going to get really ugly really fast. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I agree. Alexa, stop. Speaking of,
Fucking Alexa showed up, just walked in his house while we were doing the show.
That, you know, I think one of the big takeaways from this conversation is that if you're a campground owner, that, you know, we've talked a lot about how you need to get on board with AI, and you need to, you know, figure this out, you know, do something, you know, start now. Hopefully you started yesterday, and how important that is to your business. Tonight's conversation, though, is the other direction, where it's the impact on your guests, your potential guests, and how that will impact your business. So, you know, yeah, you need to prep in terms of AI for your business. You need to consider that. You need to look at efficiencies and all those things. And again, one of the big reasons is you need to prep for the fact that people are going to have less discretionary spending, that there's going to be certain segments that are going to be hit harder than others. And you're going to need to stay on top of things and anticipate how that's going to impact you. Because I firmly feel that in the age of AI, hospitality is one of those areas that will benefit from the human involvement. And you talked about that early on.
I agree.
And that whole emotional connection, the people, the touches, and AI is going to make it easier for you to do that. But you also need to consider that as, you know, jobs become more scarce, as economies may, you know, potentially, I don't want to say crumble. That may be a little harsh, but
well, it will. Like but in a way that is not, and I want you to finish in a second, in a way that doesn't sound like it's not going to be destruction. It's going to be ripped apart from within and rebuilt.
Right.
It's not going to permanently stay down.
Right. And so how do you fit within that? How do you fit? How, you know, what's your place? You know, things like, you know, being flexible, being responsive, being, you know, anticipating changes. These things are going to be super important to how people run these, whatever business it is, honestly. But you know, in the hospitality industry, it's going to be super important. You're going to have to be able to adjust on the fly, and in order to stay abreast and to stay alive, in with all these really huge changes that are coming.
I don't know what else to say really as a closing thing. I think I made my closing argument pretty good.
I think you did too. I think so.
Like,
yeah.
This is hard shit to look at.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to look at it. And whether we're talking about the start of what we explored, the ADR changing, et cetera, or whether we're talking about the end, which is it's not even really the end, but the 10 to 20% unemployment rate. You've got to pay attention to it. Just open your eyes. Just start to research this stuff, please. Like, we're speaking to you. I mean, I can't promise for Scott, but I'm speaking to you from a place of fucking love. Like, we're doing this not because we have to sit here for 2 hours. We're doing this because we're trying to help you. Please do your own independent research. Look at this stuff and be prepared.
Absolutely.
We're going to end a few minutes early. Thank you for watching another episode of Outwired. Really appreciate it. I'll see you next week.
All right,
Live,
everybody.
live from the glamping show,
Okay.
and it's short.
We'll be lighting it up next week.
See you guys.
All right.